Welcome to Getting Real with the Costas. This special episode series will be an exclusive. Here, both me and my wife talk about the ins and outs of running a business, being married, developing our money mindset, our polarizing family dynamics, and taking big risks in our lives. You may have always wondered what relationships we have with our friends and family. How can we actually balance our work and our life routine? You may be wondering how we communicate as a couple, or even what our health goals and struggles are that come up in our day to day jazz. Well, you are in luck because we get to talk about all this personally and more, completely unscripted. Welcome to Getting Real with the Costas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Getting Real with the Costas.
Yay.
Today, we're going to be talking about body image because this is such an important topic to have a discussion on. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, struggle with body image, feeling insecure in their own skin, constantly worrying about, the way that their body looks. And if you're listening to, Andrew's podcast or my podcast, I'm sure you've probably done, diets in the past to try to change and fix your body. And Andrew and I have had our own fair struggles of body image. I know I definitely have for sure. And obviously you can discuss maybe like what that looked like for you. But Andrew recently just did a presentation at a school, which is so freaking cool.
Yeah.
And he was like reading the presentation to me, and there was a few photos of him and his journey. And he mentioned that, there was a comment that was made to him about his body when he was in high school and how, that impacted him starting his own fitness journey. So I don't know, do you want to start there and maybe share like your journey?
For sure. Like for starters, and I mean anyone knowing me has known that I've always been very, very in shape, relatively active. I've never struggled with being overweight in my life. And actually when I was a kid, I was like very, very thin kid. Like my metabolism was on overdrive and I could basically eat anything and not gain weight. Right. And I had lived like that pretty much all throughout, like from, my being 10 years old, just going into I think grade 9 is when you go into as 10, 11, one of those two. Anyways, it's like, you come into grade 9, and a lot of the times during grade school, body image isn't really a thing because when kids are really young, kids at a very young age tend to be really, really accepting. And the stuff that they might argue about or do whatever often has nothing to do with the body, but it's like, give me that crayon, choose this thing, right? So that was never a problem for me. And then going into high school, it was in grade 10 when I started doing automotive class, that people mentioned that like my arms were super thin, that they were basically like pipe cleaners. And someone had gave me a nickname of Sticks, which didn't stick around long, contrary to the name. Because I became very personable and people just kept calling me Costa, right? But my physical nature was something that I was always concerned about being really young because I didn't want to see myself as super thin. And like when I look in the mirror, like all the t-shirts back then was like it was a medium and you could fit two arms inside of a sleeve, and I just always felt like I had to fill those shirts or fill those things. So starting really young in grade 10 is when I seriously started to do exercise, to do physical activity, to run every day. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew, like, I started going to the gym with a friend of mine whose name was Dan. I think he still exercises to this day. But it was one of those things where, like, I was like, you know what? I want to change the way that I physically look because I felt uncomfortable with those things. And I think me feeling uncomfortable in those moments, whether it was in shop class because my arms were really thin, or even in like my first kind of apprenticeship, like as a mechanic, like I was just always this like very, very thin guy. And I don't know, I felt like I needed to overcompensate with my personality and with my attitude because people just kept looking at me at this like really frail figure almost.
But I really like that you focus more so on your personality and being personable versus just trying to fix your body. Like obviously you got into working out so that you can, build more muscle, but I think for a lot of people when a comment is made to them about the way that their body looks, the first thing that they do is like they don't think about like how they're going to make other people feel or how can I be more personal. I think a lot of people revert to let me just go on the next diet, let me just do a ton of cardio, let me lose weight so that I can, obviously in your sense
Well,
it was different, but
I
I
mean, there
think
was a
people,
point in time going into college though, where like I was hyper obsessed, where I actually
yeah.
started to see like I feel like everybody initially starts activity because because of vanity, because they're not confident with their body. And there's a point in college where like I was actually like I was seeing the benefits of all of the exercise, of all of the hard work, and I was starting to look good. And that really got to my head where I was like, I want to now hyper workout. I want to do 3 hours of
Yeah.
exercise because I want to be better. I wore like, I'm telling you, Lauren, ridiculously tight shirts and jeans when going out to like clubs and stuff because I wanted people to see the results and the work that I had put in.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's what I wanted. I wanted
Yeah.
someone to validate that and to be like, "Oh wow, you look fantastic" or whatever. And it's so funny because if anything, I got made fun of it. I was like the
Yeah.
preppy guy
Yeah.
who wore all of this super tight stuff, but like I was like, "You know what? I just have style and they don't understand style."
But
Right?
see, and that's also interesting too, like what people do, like what people do that they think they're going to get compliments on, people still might not like it. Like, like you might do everything in your power to like drop weight or whatever it is. And somebody's like, oh, wow, you look too skinny or you look too thin or, the way that you're dressing or whatever it is. And it's like when you think that, like, oh my gosh, like everyone's going to compliment me on this, like, yeah, there might be some compliments, but like you really have to ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? And does this make me happy at the end of the day? Right. Um, but I remember, I'll share my story, but I remember like even when we first started dating, like I remember like you literally would, rock climb for an hour and then you would do like two classes back to back. Like you were exercising like quite a bit.
Oh, on average, every day it was at least 3 hours of activity, and
Yeah.
through that, even though like I looked physically great, I did not feel good
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever. I was exhausted all the time. I was bloated all the time. My all of my joints hurt, and it's like although it was something that like I feel like people sometimes fall in love with that physical part, and then they're like, I just have to keep looking this way.
Yeah, of
So
course.
like you just keep doing that over and over again, right? And I do believe that it was the cause of a lot of the hormonal challenges that I face, even now alongside, the change in my health, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I'll share my story. It's kind of actually very similar to yours, which is kind of crazy. But like I actually grew up as a competitive dancer. So I spent, many days of, the week exercising like crazy. We would have dance classes literally from like 5 p.m. at night until 8:30 o'clock, Monday to Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday, I'd be at the studio like literally like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. until 5 o'clock at night. And I was never overweight either. However, I wasn't like, I was very short, right? Like I'm a small person, but I was never like fit, I guess you can say. And one of the other dancers that I danced with, she was like tall and lean and front and center of like all these dances. And I heard from one of my other dancer friends that like this person had called me fat. And like I never really thought too much about my body because again, I was like in grade 8. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I don't know, I'm healthy, I'm fit, I'm active, like I'm working out and I'm dancing. Like I never really thought about that. And then that moment that that comment was made to me, I remember literally that same day, I it was parent teacher interview and my mom was was a teacher, so she never could take me. So I remember going with my dad, a parent teacher interview night, and I was in the worst mood of my life. Like I can't even remember that day, but I remember coming home after that evening and literally just like crying. Like I was literally so upset. Like it hurt me because obviously nobody wants to be made fun of. And the next day, packing my lunch for school, I usually would pack like all the snacks. Like I literally was like the friend that had all of the snacks all of the times. Like if anyone's ever hungry, just go to Lorna. I always had snacks with me. And instead, I only packed like fruits and like vegetables. And I remember skipping meals. Like, it was snack time and it was recess, and everyone was like, Lorna, where's your snacks? And I'm like, I literally would just not bring any to school. And then this translated into even like high school, like grade 9. I remember sometimes literally just not eating like all day because I was so terrified of being called fat again. And anytime, somebody makes a comment, whether it's stick figure or pipe cleaner, or whatever the heck it is, or, you're fat or whatever those comments are, you are so terrified of having those comments be said to you and have people think that of you. So you do literally everything in your power to not not coincide or not relate with that term or that word that somebody called you. So my dieting history began when I was 14 years old, and I remember going on like every single diet, and just like you, like I became really tiny. Like I became very, very, very skinny. And I remember like people being so concerned about me. And there was actually one other dancer that I danced with, and she had an eating disorder. And I never thought I had like a problem with like my food. I was just like, obviously I gotta restrict myself because I don't want to be called fat. Like I was 14 years old. Like I don't know. And one of the other dancers who had an eating disorder, I remember her like messaging me like, you're showing signs of like an eating disorder. And I'm like, I don't have an eating problem. Like I'm fine. Like I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm just eating healthy. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And I would over exercise, I'd be doing like hours and hours and hours of cardio, and it really was exhausting. And yeah, like I had gut issues and hormonal issues and all these things, and obviously that led to for me binge eating. But I think it's like we always are so concerned about what other people think. So I don't know if you want to talk about that. Like how did you really like start to overcome, or how did you like build up confidence to not worry about what other people think about
I mean, first of all, I want to touch on something. You're not the first dancer that I've come across that's had issues like this.
you? Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there are certain sports in this world, or there are certain places in which you put your kids and your young teens that they make them a target. And dance is a really bad one for this, where they put you in really, really tiny costumes and you're doing way too much in terms of activity. And it's like it's all about the physicality of how someone looks. It's not about their performance, but in fact how they look inside their outfit. And that to me, like I actually, if we ever have a daughter in the future, I actually probably wouldn't put them into dance because I know what that atmosphere is like. It was we've had clients, remember at the gym who had issues and stuff. And dance, I feel like, is a very dangerous place for that to appear.
Well, also too, I mean, like we're literally being judged, yeah, on our performance, but like our teachers were so strict, and obviously, like the people who were very tiny, they always got like front and center. They always got the lifts with the guys. So that's obviously why so many people wanted to fix their body, because it's like center of attention. They're getting solos, they're getting the best part of the dance routine, they're getting front and center. Like that's what I want. It's the attention. And I think what I've learned through healing my own body image is that what you're actually wanting, what we all want, like just like you wanted to feel seen, you wanted to be accepted, right? Like we all want to be part of something, we want to feel like we belong. And just like you going out with your friends and stuff like that, like even wearing those tight shirts and whatnot, it's like you want attention. Like we all want attention, and that's not like a bad thing. but we can get those needs met in such healthier ways than just trying to like change and fix our
Oh,
body.
100%. Even the aspect of like bodybuilding now, right?
Yeah.
Where like people see a magazine and like this person is completely shredded and like no one understands that it takes like 8 weeks of prep work for like 10 minutes of photos. And then this person goes back to eating their regular way and they gain back like another 30 pounds. And it's crazy because the majority of people who actually go through, like, you know, how many women I've seen that have come up with either eating issues or hormonal issues coming out of bodybuilding competitions because, right, and it's not just you though, how many of people we come across who have experienced that issue because they do it in an unsafe and unhealthy way. They do it to an extreme so they can look the best for a tournament or a competition. Nobody tells them how to get their body back, and then all of a sudden their hormones are all messed up and they're all out of whack,
Well, I
right? So I
think
think there's a lot of
people like I did bodybuilding competitions, and people tell you how to like there is guidance post show about how you're supposed to like reverse diet and all those things, but the thing is when you're so obsessed with the way that your body looks,
why would you?
why
Exactly.
would you want to start eating more food? It's like, no, I have to keep on to this body because, of course, everyone's complimenting you. Of course, the judges are literally judging you on your body. Like, literally, it's like they're judging your body, like your body is better than this person's body. Like, it's literally so crazy. And as much as like I had this level of awareness of, okay, you have to slowly increase your food because I was deprived for so long, like so many weeks leading up to it, of course you're going to have a binge fest afterwards. And then you hate your body. You're like, you feel even worse about yourself because you literally spent so much hard work getting to this body that you feel worse about your body than you did prior to losing all the weight, right? It's just crazy how the mind works.
100%, right? And ultimately, I think it's like people like the need to feel physically or look physically a certain way. People will do anything to achieve that because they feel that's what's going to make them happy, right?
Yeah. And I think like you and I, we care about the way that we look in the sense of like we take care of ourselves. But I think there's like a difference between like I care about how my body looks and I'm going to over exercise and I'm not going to eat, or I have to go on these restrictive plans so that I can look a certain way versus like I'm happy, I'm confident, I love the way that I eat. I love the way that I move my body. Everything's super realistic. Like there's nothing wrong with wanting to change or fix your body. Like there's nothing wrong with, having body goals or anything like that. Absolutely not. But it's how you're going about it that really matters. Like we don't diet.
No, we
Like
don't.
we
Not
don't
at all.
diet. We don't track our food. We don't weigh our food. We don't say no to restaurants. Like we're just so in tune with our body. And yeah, we still take really good care of ourselves. We still move our body. We still exercise. Like we still have our healthy habits in place. And ironically, the less restricted that you and I became with our food, the more consistent we became, the more happier we became, and the healthier we've become.
Mhm. I think the important piece there is like when you're setting a goal, even if it is something that is physical, you have to have a stronger why than just I want to look this way.
Yeah.
Because whether you end up looking that way or not, that fades, and then your obsession to keep your results is what's going to then drive you, and that's not good. So when you're looking at your goal, you're saying to yourself, like, again, if you have body goals, like let's say it's a weight thing, okay, well, what is it about the weight? Well, being heavier or having, being 30 or 40 pounds overweight, it's going to give you heart problems. It's going to give you possible diabetes issues. You're going to have other health complications. So focus on those things. Focus on
Yeah.
improving those things so you can have a better quality of life. Because like coming out of college, for me, like I went through this huge stint where I was really unhealthy. Then I had to work with like a naturopath because my hormones were all screwed up. And then, this was before we had our studio, right? And it was like I was just trying to chase then the old person that I was. and I was always trying to play catch up to this guy who was like physically looked the best, when that's when I felt my worst, when I was bloated all the time, when I had all of these digestive issues, which literally made no sense to me. So then I was like, you know what? Forget the fact of me trying to chase that, because that person's not who I am. It's
Yeah.
not who I want to be. It's how do I want to feel right in this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to go to bed every day and not toss and turn. That
Yeah.
was a huge one for me. The second thing is I don't want any more joint pain, because lifting all the time, especially the way that I did it, because it
Yeah.
was very ego, like whatever that guy does, I have to do more because I have to be the one who lifts the most. It's like none of that stuff anymore. So now it's like your joints feel better, your sleep is becoming better, eating, but eating responsibly. So, like, sure, we go to restaurants, but again, it's like I, 95% of the time at home, we eat healthy because that's what makes us feel good. We get high energy from eating healthy. So, we focus on that. Even things like, cutting out coffee, like I've done recently, right? It was decisions because I was like, is this serving me? If it's not, then does it need to be a part of this routine anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way that I see it now.
Yeah, and I think even when it comes to like workouts, you know what I mean? It's like not being like, okay, I have to do an hour workout. I have to work out 7 days per week, but it's like what movement do you actually enjoy? Like not setting a specific time, not like, not forcing yourself to do anything, but it's like what do we actually enjoy? Like what makes me feel really good, And it's like when you focus on how you feel, like I want to have more energy so I can run around with my kids, or I want to be able to, like we just went to Greece and I knew that there was going to be a lot of walking, right? So a few weeks leading up to it, remember I was telling you, I'm like, I want to start like running, like I want to get my endurance up because I've been like lifting, right? For a lot of years. And I'm like, I feel like I need to have better endurance. It's funny. I used to be like the cardio bunny and I used to have like really amazing endurance. And then I like started weight training and all those things. But like I want to be so strong in the like when I'm working out, I want to be like I can, climb up a mountain or I can go on a hike and not feel like I'm like dying. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there has to be a bigger reason. Like why do you want to work out? Like what are you wanting from your workout? Focus on how you want to feel. Like endurance wise, I want to have more energy. I want to feel stronger. Like that is so empowering and that's really what's going to help you actually stay consistent and appreciate your body and not torture your body. Like you're not working out to punish yourself for how many calories that you've eaten or like I got to hurry up and change my body. I have a wedding to go to in 4 weeks. Like, I need to hurry up and shrink my body. But it's like, how can I show my body like so much love? And the more self love that you have, the happier you're going to be, and the more confident you're going to be, and the healthier like your body is going to be because you're taking care of yourself from a place of self love versus self punishment for, what you've eaten.
I agree. Although I will say something like, even though we are where we are now, there are still times where I feel self conscious about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I know I could have improvements in certain area of physicality, or like where I used to be able to do something before and I'm like, oh, that sucks that I can't do it now, right? But that doesn't stop me from continuing to work on myself and to continue to put effort into me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the difference, right? Is like people get into this negative headspace where then they become defeated by how they look, of how they feel, or that visual representation. But I also feel as well too that society today, the only way that they know how to compliment or to start a conversation is around someone's food, around somebody's body. And that's kind of the big problem, where
Mm-hmm.
everything that we circle around in our life is like, for example, like when you walk in and you haven't seen an ant for a long time and someone's like, oh my god, you look good, did you lose weight, right? Like the compliment has to be like a physical aspect for some reason. Or you're going into a job and it's like oh, like anytime you're making a compliment on someone's physical attribute, or you're leading a conversation with that, that's basically, like, to me, such a low level of confidence that that person has,
Well, yeah.
right? Because I'll say, like I can, like, there's a difference between telling a friend like, "Oh my God, like you look fantastic. I haven't seen you in a while," or like, but there are some people who are so insecure in themselves, they compliment other people. That's how they deal with their insecurity. Where they say like, "Oh wow, like your arms are so great," right? And it's like by saying that, what they're saying is I'm self-conscious about my arms. My arms don't look good. Or like, "Oh wow, like you have the six pack, I have the whole keg." Ha ha ha. And it's like,
And
what a dumb,
they'll
like,
joke out of
oh,
it, but
so
they
dumb.
also don't realize too, like, I think something that's really important as well, like even something that I talk to my clients about is like complimenting weight loss is not a compliment, like it to some extent,
Mhm.
right? Like it's like, I know you help your clients obviously with like weight loss and stuff, right? And that's incredible, but it's like, look how happy you are. Look how much more energy you have. You know what I mean? Like I just think about your client D and like
Yeah.
how like
Like
happy she
you look
looks,
like you're
right?
glowing, or like, wow,
Yeah.
you've never been able to do that before. Like all of that type of stuff is like, those are like you can always make a positive compliment. We're not saying
Yeah.
don't compliment
Yeah,
people.
no, but I'm just saying, like, when I saw like your client, right?
Mhm,
And I was like, she literally looks so happy, like happiness. You know
mhm.
what I mean? And because the thing is, it's like when you're commenting on somebody's body, like the way that I see it, when somebody comments on my body, I'm like, are you going to ask me about my success? Are you going to ask me about my business? Are you going to ask me about like our relationship that's like actually thriving and like meaningful?
Mhm.
Like, I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. I'm like, oh, by the way, like in my business, I'm doing this. And oh my God, we just went here, and like our relationship, like there's so much more to life than somebody's body. And as you guys seen, comments are what creates an unhealthy relationship with your body, right? Whether somebody's calling you fat or somebody's calling you, skinny or whatever it is, like those comments stick with you, for a really, really long time. And it's like every time that you look at yourself in the mirror, it's like that's all you see. That's all you feel. It's all you hear. And it's like somebody can tell you like you're beautiful. Like when I struggled with body image, and you would always tell me like you look so beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel that way. Right. And like that's something to really consider as well, too. It's like these comments that you're making to other people, even if you might think it's like a good thing, like you're commenting on somebody or like, wow, you look skinnier. It's like, but like then they're gonna go home and then be like, oh my gosh, I have to keep this shape because people are noticed. Like it's such a mental
Mhm.
game.
At the end of the day, it comes down to having confidence within yourself.
Yeah.
If you are someone who is confident in who you are, nothing that anybody says matters,
Yeah.
okay, or makes a large difference.
Yeah.
And I feel like it takes time. Like when younger kids and teens go through high school, go through college, they're not taught that. They're not
Mm-hmm.
taught confidence in themselves. They're taught things like math because, like, that's more important in the moment, right? But at the end of the day, like, if you are not a confident human being, nothing that you will do will feel good, because you're always going to feel like you're second to someone else, right? In case in point, like this presentation, right? Like there was a point where like I didn't feel fully confident because there was this another speaker there, and I mean he's a professional speaker. He
Yeah.
speaks 7 days a week. That's his job, right? And yet, when he spoke, I was like, oh wow, I felt like the way I spoke sucked. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to be confident in who you are, not be threatened by what other people are doing, and also understand that when people talk crap or they say certain things or they make certain comments, it comes down to their insecurities.
Always, always,
Their
always,
insecurities is
always.
what changes and alters the way that they say things and see things, right? Like everyone knows and I don't want to put a name to it, like a negative, just what negative Nancy, right? But to all you Nancy's out there, I'm sure
We
there's
love
some,
you.
yeah, there's some positive ones. But it's like everyone knows that person who can somehow in any conversation make someone feel like crap.
Yeah.
Those people are the most miserable human beings on the planet. They are not happy and they are not confident with themselves. And they have to spread that to other people. Otherwise, it gets too thick on them and they can't breathe.
Yeah. Anyone who is confident in themselves and is truly happy would not be putting somebody else down, And it literally breaks my heart when I hear of people like you know, going on these like crazy restrictive diets and over exercising like 3 hours a day and all these crazy things, or taking these pills or doing whatever, because it's like, I have to get the weight off, you know? And it's like, what you need is more self love. Like, what you need is more confidence. What you need is to like actually heal so that you can look at yourself in the mirror and love what you see. And I think something that a lot of people do is look back at old photos, right? And like Andrew and I both have been in different bodies, you know, years ago, right? And it does nothing for you by looking back at old photos, whether Andrew was, you know, you always say like, oh, I used to be like more buff or whatever, or, you know, I used to be in a smaller body. Like, I used to do bodybuilding competitions, like, right? So it's like, it's easy to look back at that. But what you always have to remind yourself is like, how did I feel in that body? Right? I'll speak for myself. When I was doing these crazy restrictive diets, I was doing bodybuilding competitions or just like over exercising, I felt like shit. Like, I was exhausted all the time. We never wanted to do anything. Like, even just going to the bank to deposit like a check, or like to go to the store, like that was so much effort for me. Like, I felt exhausted all the time. And even though I was in a smaller body, that didn't fix my body image. Losing weight doesn't fix an unhealthy self-image. Like, I still was so insecure. I still didn't like the way that my body looked. And even when you look back at old photos, like, you can miss your old body, but you have to really remind yourself, like, how did I get there? Right? Like, what did I actually do to get there? And if you don't see yourself doing what what you're doing for like the rest of your life, like, you just have to really consider that, right? It's all about sustainability.
It has to be realistic for you to be
Yeah.
able to maintain, right? But I think an important part about that, like that process, and I mean, I can like every time I look back, you know, like I can remember when we went to Montreal, right? And we're like sitting on a park bench. I'm like trying to hear her speak. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm so exhausted. And she's like telling me like you're tired, aren't you? And it's like you're away on vacation or away on a trip and you feel terrible. And yet we allow this every single day. We allow ourselves to fall apart, and then you end up almost like overworking for what? For who? And it can get really overwhelming, but at the same time, it's like we chase these things like I want to fit into a certain pair of pants and stuff, right? Like me and Lorna don't have goals like that.
Yeah,
We don't,
no.
because that stuff literally doesn't mean anything.
But it's funny how you said that. It's like, how many people are dieting just for a vacation, just for a wedding, just for a weekend getaway at the
That's what they do.
cottage?
Well, really,
But then,
that's why we stopped doing challenges,
but
right?
then, yeah, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But then, while you're at the cottage, you're still so worried about everything that you're eating because you spent so much hard work leading up to the cottage dieting, that you're like, oh no, I can't eat this. I can't eat this. So are you actually enjoying your life? You know, and that, like, that is a really, you know, huge thing. It's like, oh, I'm just going to diet for this vacation so I can look good in a bikini. But literally, you're on vacation and you're stressing out about calories the whole time, or you're just so exhausted because your body is so depleted and you're not fueling your body properly. Like, is that worth it? Like, no. And when you actually enjoy your life, you go out with friends, right? You allow yourself to be intimate with your partner, even though you're bloated. Like, you allow yourself to actually experience pleasure, and you allow yourself to experience joy in your life. You're going to feel so much more fulfilled that literally the last thing on your mind is the way that your body looks. Like, true healing from body image is not a smaller body or even loving your body. It's no longer thinking about your body 24/7.
You know what? Put a point note or something on this whole loving your body aspect, because I got something to say to that. Okay. But go back to the other point that I was going to say. Me and Lorna, when we had the studio, it got to a point where we stopped doing challenges because people were hyper obsessed, where they would come in for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
They would kick the living crap out of themselves. They'd show up every single day. They'd lose like 35 pounds. It was the best change for them. And then they just cold turkey stopped and reverted back to their old life.
Yep.
And to me, as a coach, I was like, what a colossal waste of time, effort, energy, and respect for your own body, where you're like, I'm just going to put myself through hell, and then I'm just going to do everything that I did afterwards just so I can win.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, those people that did that, they were never able to keep results long term, and they were never able to see that change. And me and Lorna, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I didn't want to be known as the guy who was just going to support someone who did change in an unhealthy way, who did this whole like, boom, it's going to be quick. You're going to see all these results and then leave, and then your entire life falls apart afterwards. I didn't want to be that guy. And I also didn't want to coach those people because they're not mentally ready. And that was a huge aspect for us. And we sat down and we were like, what the heck are we doing with this? And that's ultimately when we were like, you know what? This program for challenges, although, and don't get me wrong, not everyone was like that.
Yeah.
Okay. But of every 10 person, there was at least two people. And I was saying to ourselves, like, we can work with the other eight without ever having to see the other two, without ever having to put people through that, because it's not fair to them. And the health and the fitness industry is all about this temporary crap, these quick fixes, these dumb detoxes, that everything has a pill. And they almost discredit the fact that you have to do it long term, and that you have to put consistent effort into it while still caring for yourself in a respectful way. Don't beat the crap out of yourself with your workouts. Don't do an exercise like sometimes, like me, 12:30 at night, you do a workout, and then you got to wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
The sleep would have benefited you better.
Yeah.
And that's what we kept finding with some of the people coming to us looking for that support.
Yeah. What did you want to say about loving your body, if you want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
this leads to a really important thing. There is People are on this huge kick about body positivity. Loving your body is about being the best version that you can be. And a lot of people don't want to put in effort or work to be the best version. So they stay a subpar or a lower level of who they potentially could be. And they're like, but I love myself in my skin. That makes no sense to me. And while I'm not here to body shame anybody, and it doesn't matter what size I don't care about any of that. As long as you're trying to be the best version of you. If you're just settling, in most magazines now and stuff, they have this thing where they're basically just like, I'm going to settle as this version. I'm not going to change for anybody. I'm going to continue to eat unhealthy. I'm going to live an unhealthy lifestyle. And this is what beautiful looks like. That's not beauty. You're just justifying why you should stay stuck. And that, to me, I don't think is loving your body either.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like, yeah, like loving your body is respecting your body. So it is like taking care of yourself, like moving your body out of a place of self love, like choosing nutrient dense foods because you want to feel your best. And that doesn't mean like never saying no to foods. Like, obviously, you guys know me, like, and, our whole philosophy, right? It's like, no, you can go out to dinner, you can go to these things, you can indulge, like, you get to enjoy your life, right? But when you know that you're just not taking care of your body and you're just like, no, I'm not going to exercise, I'm not going to make changes, like that, you're not being the best version of yourself. And, you know, loving your body is honestly not even about your body. It's like loving who you are, and your body will follow. Like, you know what I mean? It's self-love. To me, loving your body is self-love because you love yourself. And it's like you love yourself so much that you're going to respect your body, you're going to be grateful for your body, and you're going to take care of it. Like, it's your home. I always tell my clients, it's like your body is your home. Like, how do you take care of your house? Like, you probably clean it up, you tidy it up, like you take care of it, you clean it, you know what I mean? Like all these things. And it's like when it comes to your body, like your body is also your home as well too. So how do you want to treat your body?
Mhm. I feel like people tend to live out of integrity, where who they are internally doesn't match how they show up physically, mentally, and emotionally in their life. And that comes a lot of this conversation of like the relationship with your body and stuff as well. So what I mean by this, like a really great example is like, I can't say to myself like, I'm a super active person. I can do anything that I want to if I can't walk. That's like it's out of integrity, right? And there are a lot of people who claim to be like I would consider myself a healthy person. I would consider myself an active person. I would consider myself capable. If you can't do the things that you need to do. So if you want to me and Lorna, any sport we want to play, anything we want to do, any trip we want to take, like Greece, there was not a single straight road in sight. Everything was mountains and hills. Nothing deterred us because we could do it physically, mentally, emotionally. We were there and we were able to show up as ourselves to be able to enjoy that. If there's any part of your life that's restricting you from enjoying the things that you want, that's an area that you need to work on. So if you're like, wow, I'd love to be able to run, but you can't, you need to work on running. Or if your emotions were like, wow, I'd love to be able to have better relationships, but I can't, then you need to work on your emotions. Like you need to also be realistic and say to yourself, where is my highest self? Where am I falling short from my highest self? And then look to improve that in a positive way.
Yeah. Um, I think, well, there's a few things. Yeah, just something else.
No, I was going to ask you a question, but you go continue.
Okay. So there's two things I wanted to kind of talk about. I think the first thing we'll talk about is like, actually we'll save the tips for the after, but I wanted to say when we had our fitness studio, being a like personal trainer, having our own studio, was there any pressure that you felt from friends, from family members, from like whoever? Was there any pressure where you felt like you had to look a certain way because of your title?
I would even argue this. Don't you still feel pressure today with what we do now? Because I do. I feel like anytime you are in a health field, people will always be judging you under a microscope all the time. Now, it doesn't bother me anymore. I don't care because I
Yeah.
understand what being healthy is. But I know for a fact, right? Like if either yourself or myself were to gain 50 pounds, people would judge us 100% because we are in the health industry. And the reason why I know that people still care about what I think to this day and how I show up physically is the moment I tell someone what I do, let's even say
They're
it's at a
always like,
networking
oh,
event,
I can tell.
100%.
Yeah.
I can tell, or it's really easy to see, or even like, oh, don't mind what I'm picking. It's just a one off
Oh,
thing. And
so
I'm like,
annoying.
I don't give a shit
Yeah.
what you eat. Okay. But that's how I know that people are looking at me for guidance for that. And they have me under a microscope. So
Well,
I
to be
feel like,
honest, that's why I wanted to transition out of being a personal trainer. And I'm so glad that we didn't have the studio anymore because, like, even friends and family, they'd be like, oh, look at the personal trainers coming. And it's like, yeah, like when people see you in that lens, like there is a lot of pressure to look a certain way, you know? And now what I'm doing in my field, like, I really don't feel pressure to look a certain way, and people still judge my body. People literally judge my body that I'm not overweight, so I don't get it.
that
And that's
it's crazy when you
crazy to
told
me.
me that. And we were going through some of the comments, right? Which I think is wild that like being like helping someone with binge eating, like being in a good relationship with food doesn't mean you have to be obscenely overweight. Like
No, it's not.
that's
That's
not what
not
it
the
is. So like
goal.
it's crazy how so
Well,
many of the
even somebody, I posted a video of me in a bathing suit, and then they're like, you're in a bathing suit. This is diet culture. Like, I don't want to see that on my feed. And I'm like, what? I can't be in a bathing suit. Like, I take care of myself and I've healed my relationship with food. Right. So, like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't always look the way that I look now. Like I had periods where, I gained weight and then I lost weight and then I gained weight and I lost weight. There was times where I hated my body. I felt so uncomfortable. But now like I feel really good in my body, so I'm not going to hide my body or not wear a bathing suit because I don't want, like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to make somebody feel bad obviously about their body, but like this is my body. And just like you're allowed to wear a bathing suit, somebody else is allowed to wear a bathing suit, whether you're overweight, underweight, everyone deserves to show their body. Like you're not going to hold back, right?
I agree 100%. But I feel like it is an inescapable. There are certain trades or things that you can do, right? Like it doesn't matter what job you do.
Yeah,
Okay. You're a mechanic. You tell someone they're a mechanic, they go like this, hey, listen, I've got a noise with my car and boom and thing.
literally.
And you're
Yeah.
like, I'm not here to do this right
I'm
now.
off
But
duty. I'm
yeah,
not working.
but our job or our relationships with health in terms of our businesses, you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
Like we're always actively being healthy, so people are always going to be looking at us for advice, for tips, for tools, for how people should look,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, we don't get to like pack up our tools and put them at home. Like
Yeah.
our body is our tool.
Yeah. Absolutely. Why don't we wrap up with maybe sharing, like we'll both share kind of like either like what other people can do or what we've done to work on our body image.
Okay. You start.
So, I mean,
Make it
obviously
fun.
there's so many things that I've done in my journey. I think the first one is like finding my purpose. And like I feel like that's like so deep and like I'm not trying to get so deep, but like when I was unhappy in my body, all I cared about was my body. All I cared about was fitness. All I cared about was what I was eating. And when I started focusing on like what brings me joy and like having a fulfilling career, having really good relationships, going out to the social event, not hiding, not just like, oh no, sorry, I can't go to the cottage because I have to do fasted cardio in the morning, or I have to bring my own food, or like, I don't know what I'm going to be able to eat. So I'm just not going to go. Like when I really focused on like my purpose in my career, obviously finding something that was so fulfilling for me, but also just feeling so much joy in my life, I started to heal my body without my body image without changing the way that my body looked. I really took the focus off of my body. I stopped dieting. I stopped crazily over exercising. And ironically enough, like I feel the best I've ever felt in my body, not weighing myself, not obsessing a way that my body looks, but like putting myself out there. Like the job that I do, like I'm obsessed with my career and I'm feeling so fulfilled on a daily basis. And when you're so fulfilled, you don't stress about the way that your body looks. When you're happy, like we have a great relationship, when you're so happy, like I'm not stressing about my body. Like I have a great relationship, I have a great career. Like there's so many other things in my life that are going well. But when you're insecure, you often don't put yourself out there, and that can prevent you from getting a raise or a better job opportunity, that prevents you from getting in, a really good relationship, that can prevent you from having really good friendships. Because even when I was struggling with body image, I never went out with friends. So my friends basically left me. They're like, well, she's always going to say no, I'm not going to invite her. And I literally was not enjoying my life because I was just at home binging and like, you know, like just by myself. So I took the focus off of my body. I started living my damn life. I started doing things that I wanted to do, even if I didn't love the skin that I was in. And as a result, that really helped heal my body image.
I think finding purpose is important. I also think as well too, you need to cut the noise out of your life. They're like at the end of the day, whether it's social media, whether it's certain friend groups, doesn't matter what it is. If every single time you use that thing, the platform, you speak to a friend, you leave feeling negative, it probably can't stay in your life anymore. And that's okay. It's okay to eliminate things or to turn stuff off. And that's one thing that I found really, really early, which helped me, which is like I stuck with people who uplifted me, people who were always focused on growth and development, and people who are focused on growth don't have time to talk about nonsense like that. They don't have time to say, "Oh, look at this person," or like, there's really no gossip. There's
Yeah.
no gossip in me and Lorna's life whatsoever because we don't surround ourselves with people who have that nonsense. So we're not talking about who married who or this does what, because our friends are in a family. We're focused on growth. That's how we move forward. So you have to cut out the noise Start with the things that you listen to on a daily basis, your social media, certain podcasts. Like, are they serving you? Are they helping you grow? Or are they just always putting you in a bad headspace? Number one. And then you've got to start looking at your relationships, because a lot of the stuff that we try to exert physically shows up mentally and emotionally. So it's like you need to make sure that those relationships are making it a positive impact on your life.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So I think we're gonna wrap up there, but
Was
we
there you
hope.
just have one thing?
Oh,
You just have one thing?
I mean, I have 9 million things. Like,
Oh, I thought we
I
were gonna
can.
give one more each. I was just gonna let the back and forth thing. You know what I mean?
Um,
What would you say?
honestly,
One thing. One thing we'll both contribute to.
healing. Like healing, period. Healing my relationship with food, healing my relationship with myself, like doing the work to heal my insecurities and becoming confident, so that even when people make comments now, still to this day, like it's crazy how, comments I still get about, my body or whatnot, whether it's like, oh, you look amazing, or like, your body's changed, what, it doesn't even matter, right? Like, I've done the work to heal myself. So now comments are not triggering to me. Like I used to get so triggered by comments. Like I'll never forget this one time I was at a yoga studio and somebody commented and she was like pointing at like her arms and she's like, your arms are so big, like in a nice way of like strong arms. And I took it as like, I have massive arms. Like, thank you for literally just telling me how big my arms looked.
Mhm.
And for a long time, like my arms were my insecurity. And still to this day, I'm like, I have big arms. Like I'm strong, right? But I don't get triggered by comments anymore because I've healed. I've healed the parts of me that were not yet healed. And that's how truly you start to heal body image, because there's always going to be comments. Like I tell my clients this all the time. I'm like, people are always going to comment about your body and you can't control that. But what you can control is how you feel about your body, how you feel about who you are, doing the work to heal yourself so that those comments become less triggering. That's what I would say.
100%. I think that it's a fantastic and beautiful one to end on. And a part of healing is recognizing all aspects, not just your physical, but mental and emotional as well too. Oh, there we go. So mental and emotional is very important, and that's because like you reap what you sow essentially. So the thoughts that you put into your head, like I heard something really really great today that I'll share with you guys, on something else that I was listening to, which is like your mind is just a kind of like a fertile field. Okay, if you choose to plant crops, it's going to grow crops. If you choose to plant poison, it's going to grow poison. It's not biased with what grows in your head. It's not selective with, oh, we're going to protect them or we're not. Whatever you put into your brain is whatever comes out of your brain. So if you know that every single time, then you always have to be consciously aware of what you put into your headspace, how you talk to people, and then how you talk to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
which is what the part of the healing is, right? Now we don't, like me and Lorna don't talk bad to ourselves because we know that that's stupid. Like that doesn't help us or serve us in any way. So we just don't do that anymore, right?
Yeah.
And it's like this is something, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be days where like you have hiccups and stuff, but when you recognize this, you get back onto it quicker and you're able to move through it faster.
I want to say one last thing. A lot of the times people will tell me like, I hate the way that my body looks, but I make sure that when my kids are around, like I'm not nitpicking or whatever. But the thing is, you're still beating yourself up. And the thing is, it's like the comment, even if you're not making comments to other people, but you're making comments about yourself, like that's not only hurting you, but imagine how other people feel. So sometimes it's like, well, I'm not telling anyone else that they're fat. I literally just think I'm fat. And it's like, okay, well, if you're doing that in your skin and you're telling yourself you're fat, and then there's somebody in a larger body than you, how do you think they feel? Or even if they're not in a bigger body, but you're just like, oh, I got to go to the gym to burn off all these calories because I ate so much. Well, how do you think the person beside you feels? They're like, oh shit, like, do I need to go to the gym to burn off all these calories? Like, do I need to lose weight? Like, people start questioning things. So it's really starting with your own verbiage, your own language of how you're speaking to yourself. because that creates a ripple up as well.
I agree.
So
I agree.
awesome. Thank
Ha,
you
we did
guys
it.
for being here for this episode of Getting Real with the Costas. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.